Welcome back. A ton of interest into what happens inside the state capitol this session, including local leaders like mayors and county executives.
That includes Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson, a Democrat who just met with top Republicans, including Senator LeMahieu and Assembly Speaker Robin Vos. The mayor joins us now. Mayor Johnson, welcome back to Upfront.
Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. So bring us inside this meeting happening just as this new legislative session gets underway. What happened?
Well, I have had the opportunity now, just last week and a couple weeks before that, to be in the Capitol. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks as well, continuing to build relationships and get things done for Milwaukee. That's what I've been doing ever since I've been mayor, establishing new relationships with Republicans and Democrats in the state capitol in order to move things forward for Milwaukee, because we've got a lot of success and I want to build on that success.
You talk about the Monday processing bill with the Assembly Speaker.
We did talk about the Monday processing bill.
Is there any appetite that that is something that could pass this session?
I certainly hope so, and I believe the Speaker hopes so as well. Generally speaking, when I do media interviews and talk about the importance of doing this, I want to take away the conspiracy theories, and all this. It's doing nobody any favors to not have the city of Milwaukee to be in a position to count these or to process these ballots earlier. I want to do that. The Speaker had been in support of that in the past, a Republican. Our Democratic Governor Tony Evers has been supportive of it in the past too. And I, as mayor, want to get it done. So I think everything is aligned. Let's just get it done.
Let's talk about school resource officers. Speaker Vos told some reporters that the meeting was positive with you. Was there any consensus around MPS and the fact that they're still not following state law to put 25 officers back in schools?
Look, it's my priority to have school resource officers for Milwaukee Public Schools. I mean, I'll take you back even before I was mayor, when I was still city council president, and Milwaukee Public Schools canceled the contracts with MPD, and I said it was wrong then, that they had gone too far even then at that point. So I want them back. I've consistently said that I want them back. I've had a number of conversations with MPS, and I want to continue pushing Milwaukee Public Schools in order to get that program stood back up.
Should state lawmakers withhold funding for MPS if they don't comply?
I don't want more money to be withheld from Milwaukee Public Schools. I'm not just a graduate myself, but I got 3 kids myself who are students in Milwaukee Public Schools, and half of the kids in Milwaukee attend Milwaukee Public Schools. I don't want more dollars taken away from the district, but I do want the district to come into compliance with the state law, and that's exactly the conversations I'll continue having with leadership at Milwaukee Public Schools.
Is there any punishment there should be for MPS, and who enforces that?
I'm not in charge of whether or not there ought to be punishment. My goal is to make sure that those officers are available to MPS.
Can you help us wrap our heads around the latest in the negotiations between MPS, the city, as well as MPD? The district has said that it will implement a program, quote, as soon as officers are available. So why aren't those officers available?
Well, you have to have the funding in order to get the officers. And this is what I've been saying the whole time. When you go to a restaurant and you order a meal, the chef doesn't prepare your meal and then pick up the check. That's what MPS is asking us to do, unfortunately. And I think that's wrong for taxpayers in the city of Milwaukee, especially given the fact that presently, right now, after the referendum, Milwaukee Public Schools has a larger tax levy than the city of Milwaukee. Right? I've got roughly 600,000 constituents in a number of city agencies and properties, and folks we have to serve out in the community, along with visitors and the like. MPS has 50,000 students, which is far down from the 100 plus when I was a student in the district, that they have to take care of every single day. And they've got a larger tax levy than the city. Plus, as the Speaker pointed out when he sat in this chair, that school district, MPS, receives far more money than many school districts in the state. So they've got resources, and they should come to bring those resources to bear so we can get this figured out. That's exactly what I want to see.
If you're just talking in circles at this point, and there's going to be no punishment, what's the incentive for MPS to finally agree?
Well, that's a question I think that MPS is going to have to answer this coming session in the legislature, right? I think, as the Speaker mentioned when he was here, there may be consequences for Milwaukee Public Schools if they don't. I don't want to see that, though, because I don't want additional resources taken away from Milwaukee Public Schools.
Governor Tony Evers has said that he's going to decide after the budget whether to run for re-election. Do you want to see him run again in 2026?
Look, as I've mentioned before, I've supported Governor Tony Evers in 2018 when he was initially running for that office. I supported him in 2022 when he was running for re-election for governor. And I've said before as well, if he runs for governor in 2026, I'll be supporting him then too. So yeah, I'd love to see Governor Evers continue to run for the office.
We're days away from the incoming Trump administration. There's been a lot of talk about mass deportations and how cities and how states may respond to that. I'm curious your perspective if that begins in earnest.
The interesting thing, I was not mayor, of course, when Donald Trump was president the last time. I was city council president for some of that time, though. So it's interesting to me what the dynamic will be between the city and the federal government. At that time, it didn't seem that there was a lot of interaction between the two, between the city of Milwaukee and the federal government. So I don't know what to expect, but I think that's a hallmark of the president-elect. You'd never know what to expect.
Will you attempt to put up roadblocks or resist attempts at mass deportations in the city of Milwaukee?
I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, I don't know if this is real. I don't know if this is fluff. I don't know if this is Greenland talk. I don't know what he's going to do. Nobody does. So that's something that we'll have to contend when he steps into the office. Nobody knows.
Have you had those conversations with any council members or anyone within the city?
Not council members, not just yet. But again, it's Donald Trump, and Donald Trump brings some unknown factor to the office. So we have to see what happens.
Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson, thanks so much for being here. Always great to have your insight.
Thank you.
Up next, the battle to be the next Democratic National Committee chair, the major candidate forum this weekend, including Wisconsin's Ben Wickler. One of his opponents looking for an upset, New York State Senator James Skoufis, is with us exclusively next.